Welcome back to my little channel. Now, my last video I started responding to 100 facts for differences between human races, and I got up to fact number 6, and on average I found these facts lacking. Now, I did give some explanation and I did post some links, but I kind of want to try and see if I can get myself up to 101, because there are 100 facts and one obviously false one. I would say that I've already seen a few false ones, but that's just me. Now, last time I did tell you how I got to get this article. I'm not going to do that again. And we got up to point 6, so we're going to start with fact number 7. Links will be provided downstairs. Criticism is interesting, so I hope to hear from you. And let's start with point number 7. So, the US government space examination given to 100,000 university graduates who are prospective professional and or administrative civil service employees each year is passed with a score of 70 or above by 58% of the whites who take it, but only by 12% of the Negroes. Among top scorers, the difference between Negro and white performance is even more striking. 60% of the white applicants get a score of 90 or above, while only 1/5 of 1% of a Negro applicant's score as high as 90. A white-black success ratio of 80 to 1. Okay, I'm not going to contest their outcome, but we know that, especially on universities, a lot of black people are going to university on a scholarship based on athletic prowess. And we also know that a lot of these athletic scholarships do not really equate into a decent education. This has been proven time and time again. Now, what is the cause of this? Is it because black people are less intelligent? Well, no, it's not. First off, we see black people shouldn't be going into certain educations, but if you have a black person with an SAT bonus of 300 points going into a higher learning facility whilst not being prepared, they have a problem. If then we add the athletic bonus they are getting, so basically they're asked by the school to come to perform for them within a certain sport, basketball being one of the biggest, but American football being an option too, and there are other options. We also see that these students are asked to come and perform athletically, not to perform academically. And they are often helped to score high without actually doing anything. I will obviously have a link downstairs. Now, is this true for the majority of black people going to universities? I would say no, but considering that you give people a 300-point SAT score bonus to go to a university to then see that they can't handle that university, had they not been given those 300 points, they would have gone to a lower university and they would have probably scored better. So that's one part of the problem. And then the academic studies based on athletic abilities is another problem. Does this also happen among white people? Yes, but far less so. I mean, if we look at basketball, most players aren't white. I'm not saying none of them are, most. So yeah, this is unfortunate, and it doesn't explain, well, what I just said explains these numbers, but it doesn't completely explain it. We do not know what the other causes are. Though, as I said, I mean, if you're giving someone bonus points to go to university and then you basically tell them to come because you're an athletic individual, you're not going to be asked to become an academic. I won't say that there are none, but on average, not a lot. Now this one, fact number 8, I find particularly funny. Differences between Negro and white children increases chronologically with age, the gap in performance being largest at high school and college levels. This is what I mean when I say culture is the driving factor of this. Because when children are developing, they want to discover and learn, because children are naturally curious, one more than the other, but on average they all are. The difference is that where in most cultures the kid is encouraged to be inquisitive, we see that in certain black cultures, unfortunately, this is not the case. Therein lies the problem. The problem isn't their ethnicity, the problem is the culture they come from. Fact number 9. White and Negro IQ differences are constantly excused as a result of environmental variation. No, not environmental, cultural. But at least 5 studies that have attempted to equate socio-economic backgrounds of the two races indicate no significant change in the relative results. As environment improves, the Negro does better, but so does the white. The gap is not decreased. In fact, extensive research associated with Professor blah reveals that the gap in intelligence between blacks and whites increases where socio-economic levels of both races are raised to the middle classes. Again, what is the cause? The cause of this, I sincerely believe, link down below, is because of culture. Now there are black people who break free from this culture, and they do achieve. They are not black people that are the exception because they're intelligent. They are the exception because they broke away from the restraints of their culture, the restraints of peer pressure. On average, white people, Asian people, and certain black people, certain groups within black society, are very much in favor of educating their children. But unfortunately, we also know that in the black society there are people who see education as being white. So if you're a black person and you're doing well in school, they will call you an Oreo. Links down below, I will provide them. Fact number 10, because number 9 is also debunked in my humble opinion. Dr. G.W. Ferguson took 1,000 school children in Virginia, divided them into 5 racial categories. 5? I wonder which ones. And tested them for mental aptitude. On average, full-blooded Negroes scored lower, and whites scored higher. See, the thing with this is that I have a problem believing this. But at the same time, it was done in 1915. So it could have been that there was a little bit of confirmation bias on the side of the researchers. Again, this is unfortunate, but this is also not useful. Their environments and advantages or disadvantages were exactly the same. Yeah, but you don't know of the culture. So 1915, I would think that there were less cultural driven people. Sorry, I have to rephrase that. In 1915, I don't think a lot of black people were culturally driven not to perform in schools. So it could have other causes in that case. But considering the time frame, I'm not going to take this study serious. And by all means, feel free to berate me, but at the same time, I'm not going to take everything Freud said serious as well. I mean, we've been over what he said, and we've developed our knowledge. So fact number 10, yeah, that's nice, historical, but it has no academic value anymore. Anyway, fact 11, results of the Army beta test given by the US Army to over 386,000 illiterate soldiers in World War I, showed Negro draftees to be inferior to the white in all types of tests used in the army. Biased, perhaps. Additionally, these tests were conducted upon pure Negroes, mulattoes, and quadroons. It was found that the lighter groups made better scores. Different culture, perhaps. I can repeat the time and time again the argument that it's culture that drives people. Is it white culture? No, because there are black people within this culture as well. Are all black people? Blah, blah, blah. No, hashtag not all. Are all white people? Hashtag not all. I'm sorry, but the fact that you're going to test over 386,000 illiterate soldiers in a time frame of 100 years ago, yeah, I'm sorry, but there could be confirmation bias. That's something we cannot rule out. There is definitely a difference within societies. What sort of tests are given? Are these tests culturally accepting of different cultures? Because even then, on average, black people lived in a different culture in America than white people. Even within white people, you had white people living in culture A and culture B, to call it that. There are so many causes other than they're stupid to explain this. Fact number 12. Studies conducted with identical twins raised apart in radically different environments provided conclusive evidence that overall influence of heredity exceeds that of environment in ratio of about 3:1. Okay, this one is true. We know that if you and your baby boy brother and your twins are taken apart and both put in different families, you will roughly develop the same IQ. And it might be higher than the IQ that your adoptive parents have. If you live in a family where raising your IQ and where educating yourself is actually encouraged. But if your sibling goes to a family where people encourage him in learning, and you go into a family where people berate you for learning, we see a different thing. Also, studies provided. Even when blacks and whites have the same background in terms of family income and childhood advantages, family income and childhood advantages are still not the same as culture. Blacks still have an average IQ score of 12 to 15 points lower than comparable whites. This includes cases where black children have been adopted by white parents. Their IQ may be improved by environment, but they are still closer to their biological parents than their adoptive parents. Now, unfortunately, that last bit is true. Their IQ may be improved by culture, but they are still closer to their biological parents. But they already see an increase. And in all fairness, a score increase of 10 to 15 points isn't much. So Jackie, who would have been growing up with his parents in backwater black land in America, might not score well, but because Jackie got adopted, he suddenly scores 10 to 15 points better. Which isn't a huge increase, because he might still start from the same IQ background as his parents have, but we see an increase. Therefore, we can say that IQ indeed is not just environmental, it's not just genetic, there is a cultural component to it. Now, you could say culture and environment are roughly the same, but I would say no, because if you live in an environment where there are lots of books, but you live in an environment with lots of books, with a culture where people tell you, yeah, but you shouldn't read them, you're not going to read them, therefore you're not going to develop. Egalitarian ideologists often discount IQ test results with the excuse that they are culturally biased. Oh, what a surprise! Nonetheless, no one, not the NAACP, nor the United Negro College Fund, nor the NEA, have been able to develop an intelligence test which shows blacks and whites scoring equal, because we can't. You can't have two people which are living in slightly different cultures score equal on a test. An IQ test is more than just an IQ test. It's also based on your culture. I can give you an IQ test where black people will score higher than white people. The question is if that's useful. I would say it's not. And even then, black people will go down because of certain black cultural pressures. Not all, mind you. And we see more and more black people starting to get away from the ghetto mentality. But yeah, there is that. American Indians, who often live in conditions far worse than American blacks during their entire life, still consistently outscore them on IQ tests. And again, look at the culture. American Indians have a culture of achievement. They are merit-based and they want you to achieve. They will not hold you back if you try to learn more. They are actually pushing you towards learning. The offspring of interracial marriages tend to have lower IQs than the white parents. Now, this is not completely true, but it's also not completely untrue. It is true that your IQ is, your base IQ is given by your parents. So it is possible that because you're from a mixed race, your IQ might be a little bit lower than one of your parents, because you're going to be roughly on the average of both. But at the same time, that doesn't mean anything. IQ is merely a measurement of potential. It's how much of that potential you have and how much you're going to use. If people are going to see IQ tests as the be-all and end-all of a score, then you don't understand IQ. Anyway, this is point 16. Yeah, most of them I still don't agree with. And it's not just that I don't agree with. Links will be downstairs. Like, share and subscribe if you feel so inclined. I'm going to stop it here. I might do more. I might not. Who knows? This is going to be a one-sided story, because basically nearly all points when it comes to IQ I can say is look at the culture. The one thing that they never seem to talk about is the culture. They talk about environment, which is a nice term, but yeah, culture could be part of the environment, but it's not the be-all and end-all of it. They talk about raised in racial different environments. Yeah, fair enough, but it's not the ethnical differences that are the problem, it's the cultural differences that are the problem. Yeah, but no, there is no but anymore. Anyway, before I start repeating myself, like, share, subscribe if you feel so inclined. Criticism is more than welcome. I might go on, I might do more videos on this topic, I might not. Let me know what you think. And I hope to see you all next time.